Another thing that we talk about in the book that I think is oft overlooked is panels. And I don't think that authors think about panels as being a speaking engagement, but it requires a lot of the same preparation and the same ability to operate on the fly as, for example, an interview. So maybe even to a greater extent, because with a panel, you're very often going to be in person or in some way going to be able to see the response of an entire audience and possibly a moderator. And so, that's another great stepping stone into a broader author career. I think that the thing that's unique about panels is because it's a panel, you're not the only one on stage. You're working with a group of people, working cooperatively, hopefully, with a group of people. And so that is a little bit of a different dynamic. Michael, any tips you want to share about panel operations?
Yeah, everything you learned on Sesame Street apply to your time on a panel. Be friendly, share your microphone, share your time. Don't say anything crazy. It's very, very basic. I've sat on dozens of panels, and most of them have been great, but I still am sometimes surprised at how sometimes people don't understand the basics. Like if you are sharing a stage with four other people, don't take 5 minutes to answer a question, right? Like you have to be clear and you have to be concise. If you're sharing a stage with four other people, let them talk and be willing to disagree and have, congenial conversation. And it's just amazing sometimes how people don't understand that. So I think at the end of the day, your job as a panelist is to answer the questions that are asked, provide value to the audience, also build some camaraderie with your panelists to the extent that you can, because that is a networking opportunity as well. Can't tell you how many times I've said something on a panel and a panelist walked up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I really like what you said about that. Let's get some coffee." You know, so
Yeah.
you're kind of working it from two angles. You're working the crowd, but you're also working the panel. And if you think about that, you'll start to think about it correctly.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to talk about probably a little later once we have some context to talk about it in is the goals of the speaker. And certainly networking and community building is one of them, and panels can be a fantastic opportunity for that. And I think that the Sesame Street analogy is great. And, if you have four people on the panel, then each panel should be taking about a fourth of the time of the
Right.
overall panel when you go back and total it all up. And I think that the obvious lesson there is don't take more than your quarter, more or less. But I think another lesson is you owe the audience, your moderator, and your fellow panelists your quarter. You owe them your bit. And so you don't want to be a Mike Hogg. But similarly, you've been invited to the panel because there's a message that the organizer, the moderator, and the audience hopes you'll share with them, and you have a responsibility to do that. And so don't go in, figure, oh, I'm just going to be shy and retiring. You need to be willing to engage productively in that conversation that the panel is going to have.